Hi, I'm Carla Schaefer, Auntie Beads designer, and we are going to learn how to make a ladder stitch ring. I'm going to be using 4mm round crystals, and the number of crystals will vary by size. In my case, with the big finger, it'll take about 40 crystals, but for smaller ones, it'll take anywhere from 30 to 34. So you'll need a 4mm round crystal and an 11-0 seed bead in a complementary or contrasting color, and a number 10 or number 12 needle, and fire line. I'm using crystal in this case, but gray also depending upon the color of your beads. And you will also need some GS Hypo cement and a nipper tool. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to thread our needle with 4 feet of the fire line. And the easiest way to do this is to kind of flatten the end of the fire line and then bring it down between your fingers. Okay, string 4 of the 4mm crystals onto your thread, and then we're going to leave about a 4-inch tail. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my needle back through all 4 of the beads that I've just strung. And then we're going to pull it through, and what we're going to do is form a circle. Again, we want to keep the tail. Now what I'm doing is I'm kind of working them into a column. And what it does is they stack into 2s. So you have a little circle, but then you also have columns. And then the next thing that we do, and this is a completely repetitive process, is that we are going to simply string 2 beads at a time, building these 2 bead columns until we get the correct length for our finger. Okay, I've got 2 more beads strung, and then all I'm going to do is take my needle that I've dropped the beads on, and I'm going to run them back through the last 2 beads that I strung. And I'm going to pull. And then I'm going to run the needle back up through those 2 till it comes out the top. And just keep them in between your finger and your thumb to keep the tension. And again, I'm going to pick up 2 more beads. And I'm going to run back up through the last 2 that I've strung. And it'll start to kind of take form. You'll start to see why it's called a ladder stitch. It's going to start building like rungs. But in this case, they're just 2 columns. And if you wanted to make a wider band, then you would do 3. You would have strung 6 beads on to begin with instead of the 2. But in this case, we're just doing 2. And again, I'm just going to run it back through the beads that I just strung again. And again, to tighten it, just maneuver it with your fingers as you pull the thread. And then pick up 2 and continue this until you can get this piece around your finger. Okay, now I'm near the end, and I've only got 4 more crystals to put back on. So again, I'm just going to string the 2 at a time. And then I'll show you how to connect the ring. And then we'll go back and embellish the edges of it with seed beads. Of course, you don't have to finish it this way. If you like just the plain without the seed beads, you could do that. Or if you were making this into a beaded veil or something you wouldn't want to embellish it, that'd be okay too. In fact, online you will find a couple of related projects using the ladder stitch. Okay, now that I've got the band, all I'm going to do is come back here and bring the ends together. So I'm going to bring it up through these 2 on the end where I started. What it does is it brings them together, and then I'm going to go back down these 2 here. cinches it together, and then I'm going to come back up again just to complete a loop. And I'm going to go ahead and tie off, and I'm just going to make a square knot with the tail that we left and what I have left here. And a square knot is left over right and right over left, or right over left and left over right. And then we'll be ready to start the embellishment. And the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take 2 seed beads and string them on the thread. And then all we're going to do is we're going to work a zigzag almost to embellish the sides. So now I'm going to run the needle back through 2 crystals, pick up 2 more seed beads, and run it back down these 2 crystals. And we're just going to complete this process all the way around until we fill up each little gap between the 2 crystals. And what we'll have is the sides embellished. Okay, I've already done it 1 round, and as you can see, when I've come up here again, it starts to meet up again where I've got 2 and 2 right together. So I just wanted you to see that it's going to be spaced out like this, and then we're going to be coming back through again, and we're going to be filling in the gaps. So you just continue on doing this again until we fill it all the way up. Just pick 2 up at a time. And this project can also be done with seed beads instead of the crystals, and you can use an 8/0 in the middle and then an 11/0. And you just continue on around until we complete it. Okay, now that I'm near the end and I'm almost my last 2 stitches, I'm going to show you how to tie it off. And I'm just going to add my last 2 seed beads. And as you can see how we've filled in and made a little band of seed beads around there. And again, all we're going to do is here's our tail. So we began at the tail and ended at the tail, and I'm going to do a square knot, left over right, right over left, and then we're going to drop some hypo cement on it. And then I'm going to hide the tails and then trim them. So I got it knotted. And I'm just going to drop a little glue in there. And then all I'm going to do is go ahead and run this through 1 or 2 passes through the seed beads, back through the crystal, and then I'm going to trim it. And then we'll have to thread the needle on the tail end and do the same for it. There we go. And then I'm going to pull this needle off, and I'm going to thread the tail. And run it through the 2 seed beads, crystal, as if I can find the hole. There we go. And then trim with the nipper tool. You want to be very careful not to cut the work that you just did. The spiral line sometimes can be tough to cut. That's why it's a good thread to string with. And now you've completed your ring.